Perth, Western Australia to come to Croatia.
Evo, gospođa Kaye, našla nešto što je pročitala prije ovog predavanja o zapadnoj Australiji.
In our Sunday Times newspaper, here was this beautiful picture with classic Croatia written on it.
Evo, ovdje pokazali smo vam zapravo Dubrovnik, klasični grad u Hrvatskoj.
And lots of information
I dali su
about
puno
Croatia.
informacija o Hrvatskoj.
So we are very happy that now we are seeing it. We don't just have to read about it.
Tako da su oni zadovoljni što su jučer posjetili Dubrovnik, a ne samo da su čitali.
We have very much enjoyed our visit so far. Thank you for having us.
Da su jako uživali u Hrvatskoj.
So this evening we are going to look at grains, and we are looking at some of the wonderful plant foods that contain all of the things that, or many of the things that are going to help us to do what Warren's been talking about.
Danas ćemo govoriti, odnosno večeras, o cjelovitim žitaricama koje su pune sastojaka koje nam mogu pomoći u ostvarivanju onih promjena o kojima je govorio profesor.
And we've been looking at fruits, vegetables, legumes, and now grain, whole grain.
Do sada smo razgovarali o voću, povrću, o mahunarkama, a sada ćemo o žitaricama.
On Saturday night, we looked at this plate, this healthy eating plate.
Prošlo predavanje govorili smo, pokazali smo ovaj zapravo dijagram, odnosno ovu pitu na kojoj se nalazi kao dijagram zdrave prehrane.
And we noted that there are there's one thing that is in two places on the plate. And who remembers what that is? I'm sure you remember, some of you who were here. Up here,
beans
and lentils.
I govorili smo dakle o namirnici koja se nalazi na dva mjesta. Dakle, koja se nalazi skupa sa proteinima i koja se nalazi skupa sa povrćem, a to su mahunarke.
Thank you. So people who may not want to have much in the way of animal products can still get enough protein, adequate protein, by having the lentils and beans.
Dakle, ljudi koji ne uzimaju dosta proteina životinjskog podrijetla mogu ih nadoknaditi uzimanjem dovoljnih količina mahunarki, osobito graška i leća.
But when you look at that picture, what is the biggest family of food there?
Kad pogledamo dakle ovu sliku, onda vidimo koja je najveća obitelj namirnica na slici.
You can see that it's the grains and cereals, can't you?
Kao što možete vidjeti, to su žitarice, odnosno cereali.
So they're realizing now how important and valuable the whole grains are and encouraging us to use more. That's why there is so much there. They're realizing that about this proportion is good.
A zato ćemo sada naučiti koje su njihove vrijednosti i moramo shvatiti da ovaj zapravo udio koji su ono zastupljeni u prehrani je zapravo pravi omjer.
So we'll have a little look at why these are so good and what we can do about eating more of them, perhaps.
Sad ćemo naučiti zašto su one jako dobre i zašto ih moramo što više jesti.
So the first thing is they're a really powerful combination of nutrients and phytochemicals.
Dakle, žitarice su moćna kombinacija hranjivih sastojaka i fitokemikalija.
We talked about phytochemicals the first night. We've mentioned them several times.
Mi smo već razgovarali o fitokemikalijama prvu večer i spominjali smo ih nekoliko puta.
And these are the chemicals that are found in plant foods, and there are many of them.
Dakle, to su kemikalije koje se nalaze unutar biljaka.
And the good thing is they're a nutritious source of energy.
A ovdje je bitno da su one i hranjivi izvor energije.
Now you can have a source of energy that is not very nutritious.
Dakle, vi imate izvor energije koji nisu tako hranjivi.
Maybe something like...
Nešto kao...
I forgot to put it on. I had some sweets and things here.
Recimo slatkiši.
Yeah, and many of us love sweets, but usually it's high in sugar, whether it's the sweet bars or the lollies or candy, as it's called in many places, or anything that's got a lot of sugar added gives us calories but not nutrition.
Dakle, većina ljudi voli dosta jesti slastice, međutim slastice kao što su bomboni i slično, oni su puni kalorija, odnosno ugljikohidrata, ali nemaju nikakvih hranjivih sastojaka.
So the good thing about these grains is that they have all this goodness, the phytochemicals and nutrients. They are a nutritious source of energy, they're low in fat.
Dobra je stvar kod cjelovitih žitarica i to što imaju niske razine masti.
They contain no cholesterol at all.
One ne sadržavaju uopće kolesterol.
They are highly protective to our body in many ways.
I one su visoko protektivne, odnosno visoko zaštitne za naše tijelo.
So we'll look at a grain.
Sad pogledajmo kako izgleda žitarica.
So the grain is made up of three main parts.
Žitarica se odnosno zrno žitarice sastoji se od tri glavna dijela.
Around the outside is the bran.
Dakle, okolo se nalazi korica ili opna.
Down here is the germ or the growing point.
Dolje je klica.
And all the middle is called the endosperm.
A cijela unutrašnjost kod žitarica puna endosperme. Dakle, to je jedan poseban dio koji se nalazi za metku, odnosno u zrnu žitarice.
And this is the endosperm, the large part of the grain is where the carbohydrate and protein is.
A taj endosperm čini 83%, dakle jezgre, zajedno sa ugljikohidratima i proteinima.
But in the bran and the wheat germ, you have all of these wonderful minerals, phytochemicals, vitamins, bran, fiber.
Dakle, unutar te opne nalazi se puno vlakana, minerala, fitokemikalija i vitamina. A vlakna se također nalaze i u opni, odnosno u toj korici.
Yeah. And we will go through some of these later, but you can see so many important vitamins and minerals are in this outside bit and that little growing point.
Dakle, ono što je važno to je da su one prepune važnih minerala i vitamina ne samo unutar tog zrna, nego i na korici.
So, the trouble is that, really I should go back, when we refine a grain, can we go back one, sorry, when we refine grains,
dakle, kad preradimo žitarice nastaje problem.
You know what is removed, don't you?
Vi znate što se miče.
It's usually, it loses most of the bran and the wheat germ.
On izgubi cijelu tu koricu, odnosno opnu i također izgubi klicu.
The germ, yeah. So what we have left is this endosperm, which is mainly carbohydrate and a bit of protein.
Zato ostane samo tu taj endosperm koji je sastavljen uglavnom od ugljikohidrata i proteina, odnosno bjelčine.
Yeah. So, this is some of the figures on refining. It's really bad what we lose when grains are refined.
Sad ćemo pokazati neke brojeve koji su dosta ružni, jer zapravo mi njih gubimo prerađivanjem.
So that the bran and germ is removed and a lot of essential nutrients are lost.
Dakle, kad uklonite tu koricu i klice, dolazi do gubitka esencijalnih hranjivih tvari. I to 87% vitamina B1.
At least 77%, nearly 80% of the B1 is gone, and the B vitamins are vital to our health.
Dakle, od ukupne količine vitamina B1 izgubi se čak 77%.
At least 60%, more than 60% of the calcium goes. There is a little left in the endosperm, but mostly goes.
Najmanje je 60%, ali više kalcija.
More than 70% of the phosphorus.
Više 80% fosfora.
75% or more of the iron.
Više 85% željeza.
Most of the fiber, we'll talk more about fiber later, at least 66% of that.
Više od 66% vlakana, o kojima ćemo kasnije govoriti.
Selenium, 92% and more is gone.
Čak više od 92% selene.
Selenium we don't need very much of, but it's been shown that often people who have cancer will have low levels of selenium in their system.
Dakle, mi selena ne trebamo baš previše, međutim pokazalo se da ljudi koji imaju karcinome često se nađe niža razina selena.
So we want to get enough from naturally from foods. It can be toxic if we add too much, but we need to get naturally from food.
Dakle, ono što je bitno to je da ga uzimamo iz prirodne hrane.
More than 62% of the folate.
Nadalje, preradom se gubi više od 62% folata.
Folate is one of the B vitamins, which you may know is very important for the health of the DNA of our body, and it's very important.
Dakle, folat je jedan od vitamina skupine B i jako je bitan za izgradnju DNA.
And look at this. At least 99% of the phytochemicals are gone.
I pogledajte ovo, prerađivanjem žitarica gubi se čak 99% fitokemikalija.
Yeah, this is very sad.
Što je vrlo tužno.
Because so often we've developed a taste for the refined grains, the white flour, the white rice, the white pasta.
A točno je i činjenica da se to sve gubi i prerađuje samo iz razloga da se poboljša okus kao kod bijelog brašna, bijele tjestenine i sl.
But look what we lose when we have the white grains rather than the whole grains.
A pogledajmo što sve gubimo samo zato što koristimo bijelo brašno, a ne cjelovito, odnosno integralno brašno.
So, just to remind us, these phytochemicals we lose 99% of. They're only in plant foods.
Samo da se prisjetimo da su fitokemikalije koje gubimo više od 95% da se nalaze samo isključivo u biljnoj hrani.
You remember that the flavors and the colors of foods are the actual phytochemicals, so all those beautiful colors, good taste, this is phytochemicals.
A da nam zapravo one daju sve te predivne okuse i boje.
These phytochemicals act as antioxidants. They protect the cells of our body from being damaged by free radicals.
Također da te iste fitokemikalije služe kao antioksidansi i da nas štite od oštećivanja stanica uzrokovanih slobodnim radikalima.
They actually help the body to fight disease.
One se bore i protiv bolesti.
And they boost our immune system. We talked about the killer T cells that are high in our immune system when we have lots of whole plant foods.
A oni nam također pomažu u podizanju, odnosno u pojačavanju imunološkog sustava na taj način što stvaraju veći broj T stanica.
So now there are many scientists and nutritionists around the world who are studying the importance of grains.
Sve je više istraživača u svijetu koji zapravo istražuju žitarice i pokušavaju utvrditi koja je zapravo njihova vrijednost i važnost.
And could I ask you to read that out for us, please?
Dakle, opseg djelovanja zaštitnih supstanci u cjelovitim žitaricama je vrlo dojmljiv. Velik značaj pridavanje voću i povrću i to je dobro, ali cjelovite žitarice su bile zanemarive. Sada je vrijeme da ih promičemo s entuzijazmom, odnosno da promičemo njihovu redovitu potrošnju.
So they're really valuable and it's good to have more of them.
One su vrlo vrijedne i zbog toga ih moramo uzimati što više.
Let's look at some of the grains just to help us to understand what happens in our body when we have refined grains rather than whole grains.
Evo sad je tu profesorica i donijela nekakve primjere cjelovitih žitarica i one koje su prerađene, samo tako da vidite koja je razlika između prerađenih i one koje su cjelovite.
Now, we eat food probably for two reasons. Well, probably just because we like to eat, mainly.
Mi jedemo hranu iz dva razloga. Kao prvo, vjerovatno zato što volimo jesti.
But we eat for energy.
Ali jedemo i radi energije.
And we eat to gain nutrients.
I kako bismo dobili hranjive sastojke.
For the functions of the body that we need them for.
Kako bi naše tijelo moglo funkcionirati.
Yeah. So, the thing is, say we have some white bread. I think I'll have to put this down. I need 2 hands. Okay, so we have, thank you. We have white bread here. You can see there's no colour, and colour is an indication of phytochemicals.
Vidimo da on nema nikakvu boju, a u biti boja je ona govori o tome da li neka hranjiva supstancija ima fitokemikalije ili nema.
And the whole grain bread has more colour.
A ovdje je integralni kruh na kojem zapravo vidimo kakva mu je boja.
And it has more flavour too, doesn't it?
A on ima i više okusa za njim.
Yeah, we develop a taste for white, but really we can train our taste buds to appreciate the flavour of whole grains.
Mi u biti obrađujemo pšenicu zato da bismo dobili takav bijeli kruh, a pritom je njegov okus lošiji nego integralno kruh.
And the thing is, when we eat the white bread, it has to convert the white bread into energy. Our body has to convert the white bread into energy.
A kad jedemo bijeli kruh, onda se on u našem tijelu pretvara, odnosno metabolizira u energiju.
That process of converting to energy, the body must have nutrients, or it's like needing ammunition to do the job. It has to have the ingredients to convert to energy.
A taj proces opet, da bismo mi uopće preradili taj kruh, zahtjeva opet potrošnju hranjivih sastojaka koje smo uzeli, što zapravo kao predstavlja jednu municiju koja zapravo radi posao za nas.
But because the nutrients are not there, most of them have been removed. There's only about maybe 20 or 30% of the original nutrients there.
Tako da mi iz takvog kruha koji toliko prerađujemo možemo iskoristiti samo 20 do 30% hranjivih sastojaka.
The body has to actually draw on its reserves to convert that food into energy.
I zapravo naše tijelo da bi iz tog bijelog kruha dobilo energiju treba trošiti svoje rezerve.
But those reserves are needed for our immune system and other important functions in our body.
A te su nam rezerve potrebne za funkcioniranje našeg imunološkog sustava i drugih sustava u našem tijelu.
So when we have refined foods, we actually deplete our immune systems.
Zato kad jedemo ovu hranu koja je prerađena, mi onda smanjujemo naš imunološki sustav, odnosno našu obranu.
It's very similar with sugar and fruit. Okay. Yeah, I have some white sugar here, and I won't pull it out. I'll probably spill some. But if I have a spoonful of white sugar, it contains about 70 calories, or about 300 kilojoules of energy. Yeah, and this orange also contains about 70 calories or 300 kilojoules. Or the apple, I need 3 hands here. Okay, so when we have the sugar, it's like the white bread. It gives us an energy source, but we don't have the nutrients to convert it into energy, so it depletes our...
Isto nam je kao kad uzimamo bijeli kruh. On, dakle, nama daje energiju, ali nam ne daje nikakve hranjive sastojke, odnosno troši naše hranjive.
So it will deplete our immune system.
I opet obara naš imunološki sistem.
But when we eat the orange or the apple, it contains the same energy, but all the nutrients that are needed to convert it into energy.
Međutim, kad uzmemo naranču ili jabuku, onda ona ne samo da nam daje 300 kilodžula energije, nego nam daje i sve one nutrijente koji nam pomažu u održavanju našeg sustava.
Yeah, that's right. So, it even makes us feel more satisfied and full when we eat whole food rather than sugary things. Often don't fill us up very much, do they? We can keep eating and eating and eating. This makes us more likely to put on weight, and it doesn't, there are many bad things about that.
Dakle, kad mi jedemo voće, onda nakon što ga pojedemo, osjećamo se siti, odnosno osjećamo se napunjeni. Međutim, ono imaju dosta vlakana koji daje osjećaj sitosti. Međutim, ako uzmete ovaj bijeli šećer ili bijeli kruh, onda ga želimo jesti što više, više i više, jer nikako ne možemo taj osjećaj sitosti zadovoljiti.
White rice and brown rice, there's the same kind of story.
Isti takav slučaj je i sa bijelom i smeđom rižom.
So much of the goodness has been removed when you have white rice.
Dakle, sve više ljudi prelazi nutrija u bijelu rižu.
Again, you notice the colour. You've got white and you've got brown rice.
Pogledajte samo boju bijele smeđe riže.
Where is the brown rice? I couldn't find it in the stores.
Nije mogla naše smeđe riže u našem rižu.
We had a good look, but we had trouble finding brown rice. Can you buy brown rice anywhere in
Yes.
Yeah, good. Maybe some of you people might share where you can buy brown rice, because I really recommend it.
Ona preporučava da se koristi smeđa riža.
They now even will take some of the natural oils out of brown rice and put it in a capsule and sell it to you in capsule form.
Dakle, kad se kođer uzima sa nekakvim prirodnim biljnim uljem, onda ona zapravo stvori kao jednu formu kapsule.
Because they found that brown rice is very heart protective.
Jer je smeđa riža ima jednu vrlo zaštitnu ulogu za srce.
The natural phytochemicals that are in the rice oil, very small amount, but it's there.
Dakle, njene su ta biljna ulja u vrlo malim količinama, ali ona ipak tu postoje.
Yeah, so they extract it and put it in a pill, and you go and pay a lot of money to get something to protect your heart, and you could eat the brown rice.
A ta njena ulja iz smeđe riže farmaceuti sad ekstrahiraju kao jedne male tabletice. Međutim, zašto biste davali toliko novaca za takve tabletice kad možete uzimati smeđu riže?
In fact, you usually find brown rice is cheaper than white rice to buy.
A osim toga, smeđa riža je često, odnosno je uvijek jeftinija od bijele riže.
Because they've spent money, no, I'm getting a shake, okay, more expensive. Probably because they don't sell as much, yeah.
Možda je kod nas kaže možda je skupo bijele riže, se vjerovatno ne prodaje tako dobro kao bijele.
Yeah. 3 times the price, really? Well, I hope you'll think it's worth it, because I think it's so nice. When you get used to it, when your taste buds get used to it, it's really worthwhile having the good stuff.
Ali gospođa Kaye misli da ipak nije na te cijene.
So, we've got all these good things in these whole grains, and these are just, we'll try and not be too long, but all of these benefits, it's wonderful. First of all, I mentioned about the tablet you can get for your heart with rice oil, but you can eat the whole grain.
Dakle, onu tabletu koju ste mogli kupiti i popiti, koja sadržava ona biljna ulja i smeđe riže, bolje je da dobijete iz cjelovitih žitarica. Sad se navode dobrobiti cjelovitih žitarica.
So all of those things all help our heart.
Dakle, one sadrže vlakna, folate, vitamine, magnezij, B vitamine, cink i antioksidanse koji pomažu našim srcem.
Of course, the very fact that they have no cholesterol is
činjenica je da ne sadrže
kolesterol. You're not adding dietary cholesterol to your system.
I ne dodaju kolesterol našem sistemu.
And they actually help to lower cholesterol.
Dakle, one pomažu u snižavanju razine kolesterola.
There's quite a bit around now about oats.
Dakle, tu je zob.
Yeah, and you might have heard of beta-glucan. Anyone seen advertisements for oats and beta-glucan for the heart?
Dakle, one sadržavaju jednu tvar koja se naziva beta-glukan, koja je važna za srce.
I know in Australia they now have a new television advertisement to sell a kind of oatmeal porridge that they make for breakfast, and they talk about beta-glucan.
Dakle, na jednoj novijoj reklami u Australiji na televiziji prikazuju jednu kao kašu koja se ujutro jede za doručak i koja se sadržava zapravo zob i mlijeko, da je reklamiraju kao da je puna beta-glukana.
Yeah, and this is a form of fiber that helps to mop up blood cholesterol and remove it from the system.
U biti na neki način beta-glukan razbija kolesterol i onda ga pomogne da se u biti na neki način kao odplavi iz stanice.
And there are many interesting ways that this works. One of them is the fact that fiber binds, there is good fiber in the grain, of course.
Naravno, u žitaricama se nalazi dosta vlakana koji imaju jako važnu ulogu.
Many different kinds of fiber.
I to različite vrste vlakana.
All of which are valuable.
Od kojih su sva vrijedna.
But one of these forms of fiber binds to bile salts
A jedna vrsta tih vlakana povezuje se sa žučnim
and
solima
moves them out of the system.
I pomaže da ih se odplave iz organizma.
But of course we need bile salts, so we don't want to lose them all.
Naravno, mi trebamo žučne soli, ne želimo ih sve odplaviti.
The liver makes bile salts, but it uses cholesterol to make it.
Međutim, jetra koristi kolesterol kako bi stvorila žučne soli.
Yeah, so when those bile salts are removed, the liver has to make more, and it uses cholesterol. So this helps to lower cholesterol by the liver.
Dakle, na taj način vlakna pomažu da se u biti kolesterol odbaci iz organizma.
Yeah, so of course, anything that affects our heart and our blood circulation also affects the risk of stroke and the risk of blood pressure.
Nadalje, cjelovite žitarice su važne i snižavaju rizik nastanka moždanog udara I također snižavaju krvni tlak.
And one of the interesting things is, of course, that whole grains contain good calcium. Whole grains. Remember, we lost a lot with refining.
A jedna od dobrih stvari je I to što cjelovite žitarice sadržavaju I kalcij.
But, you know, we think of calcium. What do we think of when we have calcium? What does this protect?
Od čega nas štiti kalcij?
Yeah, it's bones, isn't it? That's what we usually think of. But calcium is very important for many other functions in our body. Only small functions, but important.
Kalcij je važan za vrlo bitne funkcije organizma. Iako ga ima malo, on je jako važan.
And the body maintains a level of calcium in the bloodstream to do all these small jobs, but important jobs.
U biti krv održava određenu razinu kalcija u krvi, odnosno struji krvi kako bi obavio mal posao, ali vrlo važan posao.
And if we're not getting enough calcium in our diet, then the body will draw calcium from the bones to maintain the blood calcium level.
A ako nemate dovoljno kalcija u krvi, onda ga naše tijelo oduzima od naših kostiju I stavlja ga u krv.
So we would say that an adequate calcium intake helps to maintain things like.
Zato gospođa Kaye napominje da prikladan unos kalcija pomaže održavanju niže razine krvnog tlaka.
Lower blood pressure is one of them because of the way calcium, just a small amount, regulates the interchange of ions into the arteries, the walls of the arteries, and this helps to keep them flexible.
Dakle, arterije jednim dijelom djeluje I na tonus arterija, dakle na onaj zid arterije I to sukladno radu sa željezom.
And even alcohol and caffeine both have been shown to interfere with calcium absorption and utilization.
A za razliku od toga, kofein I alkohol su interferenciji sa kalcijem, dakle oni suzbijaju ta njegova djelovanja I smanjuju njegovu apsorpciju.
So the calcium is very important for many things, even though they seem to be small.
Zato je kalcij važan, iako je malen.
And could I get you to read these, please?
Dakle, cjelovite žitarice snižavaju rizik nastanka karcinoma. Danas postoji mnoštvo dokaza kako prehrana bogata visokim udjelom neprerađenih žitarica može pomoći u zaštiti od nastanka niza karcinoma I srčanih bolesti. Vanjski sloj žitarica od kojeg je građena opna, osim što je bogat I izvor netopljivih vlakana, također sadržava širok spektar tvari koje su vjerojatno aktivne u borbi protiv karcinoma.
So now we're looking at cancer, and there are so many different ways that whole foods help the problem of cancer.
Općenito cjelovita hrana pomaže u borbi protiv karcinoma.
Yeah, and we haven't got time to look at them all, but just briefly, for instance, one is tumor growth.
Nemamo vremena za sad ih sve proučavati, ali možemo reći da usporavaju rast tumora.
You know that when a tumor grows, it's making cells which develop to create a tumor.
Dakle, kad tumor raste, on stvara što više stanica kako bi postao što veći.
And there's a family of phytochemicals in grains called isoprenoids.
U cjelovitim žitaricama postoje fitokemikalije koje se nazivaju izoprenoidi.
Yeah, and these actually suppress tumor growth.
One usporavaju rast tumora.
In several ways, actually.
Na nekoliko načina.
But one we'll mention tonight, because it's quite an interesting but big subject, is that it inhibits cholesterol production.
I to na način da inhibiraju, odnosno smanjuju proizvodnju kolesterola.
Yeah, so as the tumor grows, it's making more cells to make the tumor grow, and every cell has to have cholesterol in its walls. The cells of animals have cholesterol in them. That's why we need cholesterol in our system, but we don't want to have this cholesterol available to make cells for a tumor.
Dakle, kad tumor raste, on stvara puno stanica. Svaka od tih stanica ima svoju membranu, a kod svih animalnih stanica, uključujući dakle i kod ljudskih stanica, membrana je građena od kolesterola. I zato mi trebamo kolesterol, međutim ne trebamo ga da bi gradio tumorske stanice.
Yeah, so it's good if you have good foods which help or stop the tumor cells from growing so fast or so effectively.
Zbog toga je dobro uzimati cjelovitu hranu koja inhibira proizvodnju kolesterola.
And colon cancer, of course, is an interesting one. Warren's already referred to that.
Nadalje, cjelovite žitarice su dobre jer smanjuju rizik nastanka karcinoma debelog crijeva.
Yeah, and so the fiber, remember there are more than one kind of fiber in the grains.
Kao što se sjećate, postoji nekoliko vrsta vlakana u cjelovitim žitaricama.
Yeah, they protect the colon from the development of cancers and even from the colon polyps, which may develop into something cancers.
I ta vlakna štite protiv karcinoma i pojavljivanja polipa debelog crijeva.
This fiber, of course, binds with toxic substances and helps to remove them from our system efficiently. We don't want them sitting in the colon for long periods of time against the colon wall. The fiber helps to remove them fast.
Dakle, ta se vlakna veže sa toksičnim tvarima i oni zapravo na taj način olakšavaju njihovu eliminaciju, jer nije dobro da te toksične tvari stoje puno u kontaktu sa zidom debelog crijeva, odnosno sa stijenom debelog crijeva.
So most of the fibers are not actually broken down, almost all, at all in our body. They are simply removed.
Dakle, većinu vlakana koji mi uzmemo ne možemo ih zapravo preraditi. Dakle, naš organizam ih na neki način ne može razbiti.
But the body tries to break them down, particularly bacteria in our system try to break down the fiber.
Ali tijelo ih na neki način pokušava razbiti, odnosno naše bakterije iz propalnog sustava.
So this bacteria is trying to break down the fiber, but it's not doing it, but in the process the bacteria are producing butyric acid. You may have heard of this.
I dakle, te bakterije, kako bi se borile protiv tih vlakana, dakle, pokušavaju razbiti, one na neki način to pokušavaju, u tom procesu stvaraju maslačnu kiselinu koju ste možda čuli.
And this butyric acid, which is produced by the bacteria trying to break down the fiber, is actually protective to the lining of our bowel. I think this is a wonderful little picture, a wonderful story.
A ta maslačna kiselina, dakle, koja nastaje u tom pokušaju bakterija da razbije vlakna, zapravo štiti stjenku debelog crijeva, odnosno sluznicu debelog crijeva.
So you can see the fiber, how the fiber, even though we don't digest it, it's still useful to our body and serves a very valuable purpose.
Dakle, iako su vlakna za nas neprobavljiva, ona nam ipak pomažu u zaštiti našeg organizma.
So, obviously we've got improved bowel health and regularity by having the fiber regularly. It helps with things like constipation.
Dakle, koje su druge dobrobiti za zdravlje, osim što se poboljšava zdravlje crijeva, dakle, omogućavaju nam i redovito probave, odnosno suzbijaju obstipaciju ili zatvor.
Things like diverticular disease.
Također i divertikulozu.
Yeah, you know, with diverticulitis you have the bowel walls they're made up of muscle, And the muscles, like every muscle of our body, needs to be exercised all the time. Even the muscles of our bowel needs to be exercised, and it gets good exercise by trying to remove fibre because it's not using it.
Također one poboljšavaju divertikulozu, odnosno onemogućavaju nastanak divertikuloze, jer to je jedna bolest u kojoj se zapravo na neki način stvaraju kao nekakve vrećice koje se onda gibaju skupa sa crijevima kod probave i vjerojatno može doći do njihovog zavrtanja, to se zove divertikulitis.
Yeah. But if we're not getting fibre, if we're not getting the whole grains and the vegetables and the legumes that have the fibre in it, then there's nothing for the muscles to work on. They become very slack and lazy.
Dakle, kod probavljanja cjelovitih žitarica rade osim toga za ostvarivanje probave i mišići koji rade kao i svi mišići u tijelu. I zato ako ne uzimamo žitarice nego drugu hranu animalnog podrijetla, naši mišići u crijevima postanu ljeni i zapravo nastanu ljena crijeva.
Yeah. And when the muscles are slack and not in good condition, they can get pockets. You've probably heard how food gets caught in pockets and it starts to break down and cause gases, and this can cause pain.
Tada se stvaraju ti džepovi u koje ulaze ta neprobavljena hrana, u kojima se stvaraju plinovi i slično, da to uzrokuje bol.
So you can see it's very valuable.
Dakle, vlakna su vrlo.
This of course can aggravate hemorrhoids, even appendicitis, gallstones. Each of these are an interesting little story about how valuable fibre is in protecting against them.
Nadalje, cjelovite žitarice su važne i u zaštiti od hemoroida, apendicitisa, odnosno upale slijepog crijeva ili crvuljka i kod nastanka žučnih kamenaca.
And I was very interested to see this little piece about cardiovascular disease in Croatia. It's considered the leading cause of death.
Dakle, vrlo je važno znati da su u Hrvatskoj vodeći uzrok smrti kardiovaskularne bolesti.
And would you read that out, please?
Dakle, država je žrtva globalizacije tržišta što dovodi do potiskivanja tradicionalne prehrane od jeftinih prerađenih proizvoda iz Sjedinjenih Američkih Država i Europe koji pripravljaju police u našim trgovinama.
So you can see what this means is once we grew a lot of our food in the garden. You know, we had a fruit tree, many fruit trees. We had many vegetables growing. We had beans and lentils growing. We might have a cow we made some cheese or butter from. But everything was natural, coming from our own garden, from our own backyard. And all of these highly protective things were in what we were getting from our garden.
Dakle, mi smo živjeli prije u društvu u kojem smo sve mogli dobivati zapravo iz svog vrta. Imali smo voćnjake i stabla i svašta smo uzgajali, ponekad čak i životinje. To nama je zapravo sve bilo na dohvat ruke i to smo uzimali.
But now it's so convenient to go down and buy some food out of the supermarket in a packet, you know.
A sada je puno lakše otići u supermarket i uzeti nekakvo pakiranje, neke hrane, bilo kako.
Some of the food in packets is good.
Neka ipak koja su pakirana je dobra.
But we need to get in the habit of looking at labels, reading labels.
Ali moramo steći naviku gledati u biti šta sadržavaju ove deklaracije.
This is one good one. It's got so many good grains and seeds in it.
Dakle, to je jedna od tih paketa sa hranom koja je dobra, puna sjemena i žitarica.
Yeah. So just think about eating the whole food rather than the one that's had the goodness removed from it, and you'll be doing well.
Zato je važno da jedete ovu integralnu hranu i tada ćete učiniti dobro za sebe.
Because when we eat the food that we buy ready-made out of the supermarket or in a restaurant, it's usually made because we like its taste, which is maybe you.
Dakle, većina hrane koju sad uzimamo ili kupujemo ili jedemo u restoranima, biramo je samo zato što nam je dobrog okusa.
Yeah, and usually the taste is salt, sugar, fat, chemicals, white flour.
A uglavnom se taj dobar okus sastoji u tome što se uzimaju masti, ugljikohidrati, kemikalije, bijelo brašno.
So it's worth taking a little bit of time at home to make good food, especially if you have a garden.
Zbog toga je dobro imati dosta vremena da biste mogli preći na ovu prehranu, osobito ako imate vrstu.
Of course, you get better weight management, as Warren mentioned earlier.
Naravno, žitarice nam služe i u boljem održavanju tjelesne težine.
And you know, it might look bad for Croatia, but America and Australia are just about the same. All about 60% overweight and at least half of that obese. So it is a real problem worldwide.
Nažalost, pojavio se problem da, recimo, isto kao i u Australiji i u Americi i u Hrvatskoj je preko 60% odraslih osoba debelo, odnosno pretilo.
As we've mentioned, the grains give us a slow release of energy. They have a low GI, which means that when we eat them, we don't just get a big burst of energy, then feel empty.
Dakle, ono čega se moramo posjetiti to je da žitarice daju nizak glikemijski indeks, odnosno da dolazi do polakog otpuštanja energije, a ne daju nam jednu jaku dozu energije nakon koje se osjećamo isprazno.
And they actually make us feel full for longer.
Dakle, one nam daju osjećaj punoće koji dulje traje.
And this is, of course, going to help us with our weight. We're using whole, plant-based foods.
Dakle, cjelovita biljna hrana, odnosno hrana temeljena na prehrani bilje.
And this is something interesting that they are now realizing. When we have more plant foods, less of the calories are turned, or the energy is turned into fat and stored. More of it is retained or dispelled as body heat.
Dakle, ta cjelovita biljna hrana, tu energiju, odnosno puštanje kalorija, više oslobađa kao tjelesnu toplinu nego što stvara tjelesnu masu.
So, and because we are, you know, we're not storing it, we're feeling lighter, if you like. We feel more like getting up and being active, so we will feel more like doing the exercise that Warren was recommending.
I kad jedemo takvu hranu, osjećamo se lakše i onda možemo bolje odraditi naše vježbanje. Osjećamo se bolje za odraditi vježbanje.
We even feel we can cope with life better. You know, when you feel well, it's easier to deal with the problems of life, isn't it? It really does make a difference.
Dakle, to je ono što možemo napraviti razliku.
So, diet and exercise work together, as we've said.
Dakle, kao što smo rekli, prehrana i vježbanje rade zajedno.
And they work together to decrease body weight and to improve overall health.
I u snižavanju tjelesne težine i u poboljšavanju općeg zdravlja.
You've got diabetes, we've referred to that, but you know, the picture is not a pretty one with diabetes.
Ona, dakle, žitarice snižavaju rizik nastanka šećerne bolesti, odnosno dijabetesa tipa 2, jer slika koju daje dijabetes nije ni malo lijepa.
Yeah, you can see some of the things that are the results of being diabetic.
To su neke stvari, dakle, koje možete vidjeti ako imaju dijabetičari, kao što su sljepoća, amputacije, udova i slično.
And the recommendations are a high fiber diet, a low fat diet, and plenty of exercise. And we get the high fiber and low fat from plant foods.
Dakle, preporuke su uzimanje puno vlakana, malo masti i vježba.
So here's a list of some of the places you can get whole grains. Some things are more available in different countries, but you can think about it and make some thoughts about how you can get more whole grains into your diet.
Ovo je, dakle, lista cjelovitih žitarica koje možete nabaviti, pa onda malo promislite o njima.
And the thing is, there's good news, and that is...
A dobra je vijest da zdrav stil života može prevenirati ili pomoći zbrinjavanju navedenih stanja. Temelj vaše prehrane na cjelovitoj biljnoj hrani, uključujući voće, povrće, orašate plodove, sjemenke, mahunjake i cjelovite žitarice, te minimalizacija prerađivanja hrane može odigrati važnu ulogu u poboljšanju vašeg zdravlja i blagostanja.
So we want you all to have improved health and well-being.
Dakle, svima vama profesorica želi dobro zdravlje i blagostanje.
And it's the little choices you make. You know, you will have this day, today for lunch I will have not so much of this. I like the taste, but I won't have so much. I will have something healthy. Just one thing.
I mala promjena koju ćete napraviti, recimo za ručak, ako znate da nešto nije zdravo, a sviđa vam se okus, samo da se toga odreknete. Yeah.
So, because you might remember that last time we talked, we said small steps taken in the right direction help us to make changes.
Zapamtite dakle da nas mali koraci vode do velikih promjena koje će nam pomoći.
So thank you very much. I wish you all good day.